Welcome, fellow seekers of history's shadows. Before we journey into the shadowed courts of the Aztec Empire, I'd love to know where in the world you're listening from tonight. Whether you're drifting off in Denver, unwinding in Dubai, or finding a quiet moment somewhere between, I'm grateful you've joined me here. Tonight's tale delves into an Aztec legal world where justice and spectacle intertwined. We'll explore peculiar punishments meted out in Tenochtitlan's great plazas, ritual trials beneath soaring temples, verdicts proclaimed by feathered nobles, and atonements that blended the cosmic and the corporeal. Through gentle narration and vivid detail, you'll feel the humid breeze off Lake Texcoco, hear the murmurs of the courtroom, and witness the solemn pageantry that maintained order in a city of 200,000. If these explorations into history's more unsettling truths resonate with you, please subscribe so you never miss our descent into the past's darkest corners. Now, settle back and let your mind drift with me to the age when maze priests and Jaguar Knights held sway and punishment carried a promise of renewal. A pale orange glow creeps over the twin temples of Tenochtitlan as the first paddles skim the misty surface of Lake Texcoco. The plaza yawns awake beneath a cloud of incense smoke, drifting from braziers shaped like coiled serpents. Feathered nobles emerge from behind massive basalt columns, their quetzal-green cloaks rustling like oversized leaves in a gentle breeze. Commoners in simple maguey cloth tunics shuffle forward, barefoot on polished stone, carrying baskets of freshly picked flowers to lay at the judge's feet. At the center, an elder judge in a towering headdress of iridescent plumage raises a conch trumpet to his lips. He breathes in deep, and the shell's song ripples across the crowd like a ripple on the water's surface. A hush follows, broken only by the faint clink of obsidian blades, worn at the hips of eagle knights who stand sentinel on raised platforms. Each warrior's armor glitters with mother-of-pearl inlays, echoing the first rays of dawn. Around them, hooded scribes unfurl amate bark scrolls, their charcoal-stained fingers tracing lines of legal code passed down through generations. A pair of drummers seated on low stone benches tap a slow heartbeat. Tete-a-tete, tete-a-tete. The rhythm settles into everyone's chest, a reminder that justice here is as measured as time itself. As the final drumbeat fades, the judge lowers his trumpet and nods. The moment of ceremony gives way to purpose. Today's cases will determine who atones, who restores, and who walks away with nothing more than a story to tell. And in this hush, before words are spoken, the plaza holds its breath. Crowd's hush deepens as a lone figure is led forward on woven ropes at dawn's light. The accused, a middle-aged cacao merchant named Tenochtitlan, steps onto the smooth basalt dais, shoulders hunched under a dyed cotton robe. His sandals scrape softly as he approaches the circle of judges and eagle knights, each step echoing through the plaza like a muted drumbeat. High above, temple priests shift in their feathered collars, their eyes reflecting both piety and power. The air is thick with the scent of burning copal and damp earth. Nearby, drummers pause mid-beat, letting silence amplify the tension. Murmurs ripple through the assembled commoners, some clutching infants, others shading their eyes from the rising sun. Tenochtitlan lifts his chin, attempting dignity, but his fingers tremble against the folds of his robe. At the dais's center, the elder judge peers through a fringe of feathers, his expression inscrutable. Flanked by two eagle knights, one bearing a macawa huitel edged with gleaming obsidian, the other holding a reed-bound codex. The judge listens as the chief scribe reads the accusation, shortchanging a noblewoman on a last trade of precious cacao beans. Every word hangs in the air, like specks of gold dust caught in a shaft of light. As the scribe's voice trails off, Tenochtitlan's heart pounds in his ears. Around him, the spectators lean forward, awaiting the first word of defense or condemnation. In this charged stillness, the fate of one man and the delicate balance of justice teeter together under the watchful gaze of gods and mortals alike. Beneath the mottled morning light, two scribes kneel before a low stone table, set with a pair of polished copper scales. Each pan gleams as if infused with the sun's first warmth. The air is thick with expectation as bystanders form a loose circle, their eyes fixed on the ritual balance before them. On one pan, a heap of glossy cacao beans, dark as midnight, awaits judgment. On the other, a collection of small gold rings, the standard Aztec tejocotes, waits as counterweight. The chief scribe, a lean man with sharp cheekbones, lifts a handful of beans and lets them trickle slowly into the scales pan. Each bean lands with a that resonates in the hushed plaza. His partner, a younger scribe with ink-stained fingers, adjusts the gold rings, sliding one ring at a time until the pans hover in perfect equilibrium. A small crowd, then, as the scales settle. Nearby, Tenochtitlan's heart thud games his ribs, sweat beads at his hairline, and he fights the urge to wrench his eyes away. The elder judge remains impassive, though the quetzal feather headdress tilts ever so slightly forward. An eagle knight leans in, peering at the balance, his armor whispering against the stone platform. Finally, the younger scribe dips a slender stylus into a clay tablet and etches the weight. 27 tejocotes. A collective ripples through the crowd. The chief scribe meets Tenochtitlan's gaze, expression unreadable. In this precise moment, the merchant's fate hinges on a silent verdict of grains and gold. Justice distilled to its purest form. A hush falls again as the judges prepare to render their decision. The elder judge rises, his quetzal feather headdress brushing the carved stone lintel above him. He lifts a polished flint blade, its edge honed to razor sharpness, and lets its tip rest lightly against the wooden pedestal before him. In the stillness, the blade's sheen glows like captured moonlight. The crowd leans in, breath held, as the judge speaks in measured tones. For the dishonor brought upon our noble, restitution through service is prescribed. His voice echoes off temple walls, carrying both authority and ritual cadence. Two eagle knights step forward, each bearing a single long feather, one from the resplendent quetzal, the other from the noble eagle. The elder judge dips the flint tip into a shallow bowl of red pigment and traces a delicate line across the trader's forehead and cheek, symbols of atonement painted in the court's ancient tongue. As the pigment dries, one eagle knight presses the quetzal feather lightly into the merchant's right shoulder. The other guides the eagle feather to his left. Each feather imparts a promise, honor regained through sweat rather than blood. Tenochtitlan straightens under their touch, cheeks tingling where pigment meets skin. Around him, spectators exhale, some nodding in approval, others whispering prayers of goodwill. With the flint blade returned to its altar, the head judge intones a final blessing. Go forth, and may your deeds restore balance to our realm. The merchant bows deeply, the weight of his sentence already transforming into resolve. In that moment, justice feels both stern and strangely uplifting, a harmony woven of feathers, flint, and the promise of renewal. The morning sun climbs higher as Tenochtitlan steps away from the dais, now marked by quetzal and eagle feathers on his shoulders. He is led toward the grand aqueduct that channels Lake Texcoco's water into the city. A line of stone blocks, some cracked and moss-stained, awaits repair. Under the watchful gaze of an overseer in a white linen cloak, the merchant kneels at the first stone, chisel in hand. Each strike of his tool rings clear, echoing off the temple walls like a solemn prayer. Sweat beads at his brow, mixing with the red pigment that still traces his cheek. Around him, a group of laborers, spare-built men in simple cotton loincloths, pause their own tasks to observe. Their silence is neither mockery nor scorn, but a respectful acknowledgement of shared duty. As Chakapan chips away the fractured mortar, the overseer instructs.
Straight strokes, slow rhythm. The water must flow without pause.
Chakapan nods, muscles straining beneath his robe. Each corrected block restores not only the aqueduct's function, but his standing within the community. Children watch from a safe distance, their wide eyes reflecting both curiosity and relief that today's spectacle ends in service rather than shame. By midday, a section of repaired stones gleams in the sun. The channels flow once again unbroken. The overseer steps forward, placing a hand on Chakapan's shoulder.
Your atonement honors our laws and the gods' balance.
A ripple of approval travels through assembled workers. In this moment, the plaza's earlier tension transforms into shared purpose, a vivid reminder that in Aztec courts, justice could heal both stone and spirit. As the sun dips low over Tenochtitlan, a hush falls across the plaza once again, this time before a low, circular altar carved with coiling serpents. 4 bloodletter priests approach in single file, each bearing an obsidian-edged lancet and a shallow clay bowl stained with dried corpal resin. Their feathered collars glow in the amber light, and their sandals whisper on the polished stone. Citizens gather in a broad semicircle, eyes downcast and voices muted in reverence. At the center of the altar, the high priest of bloodletting, his face marked with red pigment lines, symbolizing the 4 cardinal directions, raises a conch shell filled with sacred water. With a solemn breath, he sprinkles droplets onto the serpent carvings, and the plaza's silence deepens. The other priests kneel, placing their lancets on woven mats beside them. The high priest's voice, low and rhythmic, intones an invocation to the rain god, Tlaloc, and the sun deity, Huitzilopochtli, asking for mercy and balance. A hush of anticipation ripples through the onlookers. This ceremony is more than punishment, it is a spectacle of atonement that binds community and cosmos. As the high priest's final word fades, the 4 bloodletter priests rise, their feathered cloaks rustling like distant thunder. From the crowd, a young offender is guided forward, barefoot and shivering, to participate in this ritual, his fate entwined with the god's will. In this charged twilight, the lines between justice and worship blur, and every heart pulses to the drumbeat of sacrifice. At the altar's edge, the young offender, Xilotl, trembles beneath the gaze of the bloodletter priests. His crime, stealing maize from the communal granary, has cast a shadow over both his family and his neighborhood. In the flickering torchlight, Xilotl is handed a braided cord dipped in sacred pigment. The high priest motions him to kneel, and the boy traces the cord across his chest, each stolen kernel's name as a confession. The plaza remains silent except for the crackle of torches and the distant whisper of the canal's waters. Xilotl's voice is barely audible at first, but with each syllable, 1 ear of maize, 1 ear of maize, it grows stronger, more certain. The junior priests watch, their obsidian lancets ready at their sides. As Xilotl completes his confession, the high priest holds aloft a green obsidian mirror, reflecting torchlight onto the boy's upturned face, a symbol of truth laid bare. The final confession word drips into the clay bowl at Xilotl's feet, mingling pigment and moisture. A collective intake of breath arrests the plaza. Even the drummers pause mid-beat, letting the moment stretch. In this act of public confession, the community both witnesses and forgives. By naming his wrongdoing aloud, Xilotl begins the path to restoration, one that demands sweat and blood, but promises reintegration. With the confession complete, the plaza holds its breath as the high priest signals the junior priest to begin. One steps forward, pressing the obsidian lancet's edge against Xilotl's earlobe, not to maim, but to draw a single line of blood as sacred offering. The boy flinches but remains kneeling, lips pressed together in resolve. A trickle of crimson beads onto the altar's basin, steaming slightly in the torchlight. The second junior priest steps up, gently grasping Xalottl's forearm and making a small incision above the wrist. The blade's stroke is precise, almost tender, and the boy's dark blood pools in the earthenware bowl. Around the altar, onlookers whisper prayers, and the drummers resume a solemn cadence. Dum-dum, dum-dum. Each beat echoes Xalottl's heartbeat, merging human frailty with divine ritual. The high priest lifts the bowl, allowing the red offering to catch the torchlight, then slowly pours it over the serpent carvings at the altar's base. The liquid hisses as it meets cool stone, sending up a wisp of sacred steam. In that hiss, many hear the whisper of Tlaloc's voice, approving the sacrifice. Xalotl rises, head bowed, blood-stained but dignified, having offered his lifeblood to restore communal balance. As the last drop of blood fades into the altar, torches flare higher, casting dancing patterns across the feathered collars of the priests. The high priest signals the crowd to rise. Around the semicircle, eagle knights lift their flint-tipped staffs, each topped with a single quetzal or eagle feather, symbolizing the dual aspects of mercy and justice. Their silhouettes flicker against the temple walls like living carvings. Xalotl is led to a nearby brazier shaped like a coiled serpent. One by one, priests throw copal chunks into the flames, each exhaling a rhythmic chant, plaqua, plaqua. The smoke curls upward in billowing spirals, carrying prayers and atonement to the sky. Xalotl extends his arms toward the rising smoke, and the high priest smears a tiny dab of blood on each palm, anointing the youth as a purified member of the community once more. In the flickering amber light, onlookers step forward with small gifts of maize, flowers, and cocoa, symbolic tokens of their acceptance. The plaza swells with gentle chatter, and children dart through the crowd to touch Xalotl's newly anointed hands. What began as a spectacle of punishment now radiates communal warmth. In this charged transformation, the Aztec court reveals its ultimate purpose: to renew bonds through ritual, ensuring that each soul remains woven into the social fabric. Night has fully fallen when the plaza transforms into a long communal table. Woven mats laden with tamales, cacao drinks, and bright, chili-dusted maize are laid before the returning crowd. The high priest, now unburdened of ritual garments, invites Xalotl to sit beside a senior elder, symbolically restoring him to equal standing. Flames from torches and braziers paint flickering halos on stone walls. As the first tamale is unwrapped, its steam curling like incense, the elder raises a small cup of foaming cacao. Indong, to balance restored, he intones, and the crowd echoes a soft chorus, to balance restored. Xalotl sips, his tension easing as the warm chocolate bitterness seeps into him. Around him, neighbors, cuckolds, laugh softly and share stories, some recalling past atonements, others teasing gentle jibes about spilled maize. The high priest, seated at the head, offers a final blessing. May the gods witness this renewal. Let none forget that our strength lies in forgiveness as much as judgment. A hush follows. Then, one woman begins to, sing a low lullaby to Tlaloc, calling for gentle rains and fertile fields. The crowd joins in, their voices weaving a lull that seems to carry the plaza towards sleep. In this soft conclusion, punishment becomes celebration and blood becomes blessing. Under the star-studded sky, the community has witnessed the full cycle: transgression, confession, sacrifice, and finally, nourishment. And as the final notes fade, the plaza exhales, cradled in the promise of another dawn. Under a full moon that bathes the plaza in silvery light, the Jaguar Knight conclave convenes in hushed ritual. Tenochtitlan's usual bustle is replaced by an otherworldly stillness, broken only by the soft rustle of obsidian armor and the distant lapping of lake waters. A line of towering Jaguar Knights, clad in spotted pelts and edged with mother-of-pearl, emerges from shadowed archways. Their helmets, shaped like fierce feline snarls, catch the moonlight in sharp reflections. At the center of the circle, the lead knight taps an obsidian-tipped staff on the ground, sending a resonant tock-tock through the silent gathering. One by one, scroll-bearing scribes step forward to present the knight's cases. A poacher accused of killing sacred quetzal eggs, a noblewoman suspected of hoarding tribute, and a tradesman rumored to sell counterfeit shells. The knights listen in solemn silence, their amber eyes bright beneath carved masks. The moon's glow glints off jade earplugs and gold inlays in their breastplates. Every breath seems amplified, each exhale visible in the cool night air. As the final scribe finishes, the lead knight raises his staff, and the assembled conclave bows as one. Through this nocturnal summons, the Jaguar Knights uphold the Empire's law when the world sleeps, reminding all that the night holds as much sway as the day. Within a semicircle of towering basalt pillars, each bathed in lunar radiance, the first suspect, a furtive poacher named Izel, is brought before the Jaguar Knights. His rough-woven tunic is stained with sweat and earth. The knights' masks, shaped like snarling felines, loom overhead, their voices lowered but firm as they question him about the stolen quetzal eggs. Izel's voice trembles as he recounts his journey into forbidden marshes and his encounter with the bird's emerald plumage. The moon's light glints off the knights' obsidian blades as they lean in, silent but unyielding. One knight traces a claw-like pattern across a marking tablet, tallying Izel's statements. The night air shivers with tension. The susurros of palms in the breeze punctuates each question. As Izel falters, the lead knight gestures to a nearby brazier. A wisp of copal smoke curls toward the moon, symbolizing truth carried skyward. The flame's flicker casts dancing shadows on the pillars, turning the knights into living obsidian statues. Izel lowers his gaze, realizing that beneath the moon's impartial light, deception cannot hide. The knights confer in muted tones, their decision pending, while the plaza holds its breath beneath the watchful sky. At the plaza's core, a vast mosaic of stars and constellations is inlaid into the stone floor. A celestial map by which the Jaguar Knights measure fate. The lead knight steps onto the mosaic, his pelt-clad boots aligning with Orion's belt. He traces a path from earth to sky with his obsidian-tipped staff, invoking cosmic balance. The suspects, now including the noblewoman and the trader, stand at edges of the star map. Each face is illuminated by moonlight and copal flames. The lead knight recites a ritual chant, naming each constellation and its omen. Tlatoani guides the just. Tezcatlipoca judges the deceitful. As he speaks, the constellations seem to glow, their inlaid jade and turquoise catching the light. By starlight, he pronounces that only one may be guiltless, the others must undergo trials. He taps each suspect's shoulder with the staff. One feather mark for mercy, one for penance, one for banishment. The cosmic symbols above echo their fate. A fallen star marks the trader's banishment. A rising comet grants the noblewoman a chance at redemption. In this moment, the Aztec night sky and the Empire's justice merge into a single cosmic verdict. Before dawn breaks, the penance hunt commences in a sacred grove beyond the city walls. Under flickering torchlight, the designated offender, now the poacher Izel, steps into a clearing ringed by towering ceiba trees. Jaguar Knights flank him, their pelts rustling as they move. The hunt's purpose is symbolic, to track and release a captive deer, mirroring the offender's path to redemption. Izel grips a braided rope around the deer's neck, its soft fur brushing his arm. The lead knight raises a feathered fan, signaling the start. Through dense undergrowth and moonlit glades, they chase the deer's path, each step accompanied by soft chants praising Tenochtitlan, patron of travelers. Ezel stumbles but rises, resolve strengthening with every breath. Moments of tension snap as the deer leaps a fallen log. Ezel gives chase, finally allowing the rope to slip free, so the animal bounds away into the forest. The knights raise their staves overhead in salute, and Ezel falls to one knee, chest heaving. The hunt concludes, not with blood, but with freedom granted, a tangible lesson in mercy and trust. In that damp grove under dawn's first light, offender and community both taste the grace of release. With the hunt's mercy granted, the conclave returns to the moonlit plaza. The Jaguar Knights form a guard of honor along the stone causeway leading to the temple steps. Ezel, no longer bound, walks between them, his shoulders lighter under the pelt's weight. The lead knight and addresses the crowd. Solemnly, by the moon's witness and the hunt's release, let these souls be free of guilt and fear. He dips a quetzal-feathered fan into a bowl of perfumed water and sprinkles droplets over each freed soul. The fine mist glitters in torchlight like stardust. The audience steps forward, offering wordless congratulations, nods, tears of relief. The night's chill softens as dawn's first pale glow stains the eastern sky. As the moon wanes and the sun rises, the plaza pulses with renewed life. The Jaguar Knights lower their masks, revealing faces softened by quiet pride. Ezel exchanges respectful bows with the lead knight, understanding that justice in Aztec Courts dances between shadow and light. In that liminal hour, the community rejoices in redemption, and the promise of dawn carries the gentle assurance that even in darkness, mercy endures. As mid-morning sunlight filters through lattice-carved gateways of the Temple Mayor, townspeople drift into the broad courtyard, settling on woven reed mats beneath a canopy of flowering ceiba branches. A hush falls when the moral storyteller, an elderly bard in a turquoise-dyed cloak, rises on a low basalt platform. In one hand, he holds a carved wooden staff topped with a carved jaguar head. In the other, a slender reed flute rests at his side, ready to punctuate his words. He begins with a soft invocation to Xochipilli, god of art and poetry, then launches into the first tale. How two brothers learned honesty by trading obsidian blades. As he speaks, his voice undulates like gentle waves, each phrase painting scenes of sibling rivalry in distant highlands. The crowd leans forward, children wide-eyed, elders nodding in recognition of family feuds, past and present. Puffs of incense smoke drift from stone braziers at the courtyard's corners, carrying the bard's words upward. Throughout, the bard weaves questions into his narrative. What does truth cost when pride overflows? Inviting listeners to ponder quietly, a hush of reverence blankets the space, broken only by a distant drum's soft lament. In this ceremonial pause, the courtyard itself seems to breathe, setting the stage for moral reckoning. By the time the tale's siblings reconcile over a shared meal of maize and beans, the audience is primed to witness justice not by blade, but by introspection and communal wisdom. After the opening parable, a troupe of masked performers emerges from behind woven mats, each bearing a small wooden puppet carved in human form. The lead puppeteer, wearing a makuar wheatle belt and jaguar skin mask, positions a puppet representing the proud lord Tenochtitlan. With deft hands, he animates the figure, its limbs clicking softly at each joint. The puppet drama unfolds. Tenochtitlan arrogantly hoards tribute, ignoring the pleas of his villagers. The puppeteer's voice shifts to mimic both lord and commoner, each syllable resonating through the courtyard's calm air. As the villager's puppet kneels, offering maize and textile, the lord's puppet waves an obsidian blade dismissively. At key moments, a secondary puppeteer brings a puppet of the earth goddess Coatlicue, whose rust-red feathers and serpentine adornments signal divine displeasure. Children gasped when the goddess puppet raises a tiny obsidian mirror, reflecting the Lord's face and his own greed back at him. The audience chuckles gently at the Lord's comic pratfalls, then grows quiet as the puppet kneels to apologize. When the final scene shows Tenochtitlan distributing tribute equally, the courtyard bursts into appreciative applause. Through wooden figures, the moral tale comes alive, imprinting lessons of fairness on both young and old. Next, the head judge steps onto the platform, carrying a reed-bound codex containing scripted dialogues for public admonishment. Two accused individuals, a weaver who sold flawed cloth and a potter whose vessels cracked under heat, are brought forth, each wearing a white cloak smeared with false charcoal streaks to symbolize their misdeeds. The judge reads from the codex, his tone formal yet gentle. Let all see how haste yields harm. He motions to a pair of assistants, who distribute small reed paddles stamped with corrective symbols. One by one, the weaver and potter recite pre-written acknowledgements of fault, reciting lines about respect for craft and community. With each recitation, a paddle is lightly pressed against their backs, a symbolic chastisement never harsh enough to wound. Onlookers murmur approval as the accused bow and promise restitution. The weaver will remake the cloth and teach apprentices. The potter will craft new vessels for the temple kitchens. The judge closes the codex, smiles kindly, and offers a small handful of cacao beans to each to sustain them through their reparative work. In this choreographed ritual, public shaming is balanced by structured atonement, honoring dignity even as wrongdoing is acknowledged. Following the scripted admonishment, the air fills with fragrant plumes as incense bearers encircle the platform. Each carries a small clay censer of copal resin, swinging it gently until thick white smoke drifts upward like living spirits. The head judge raises his hands, inviting the courtyard into silent witness. He pronounces the formal verdict. Through confession and craft, balance is restored. As he speaks, assistants release two doves, one white, one speckled, into the open sky above the temple's edge. The doves spiral upward, their wings catching sunlight. The crowd's collective breath lifts with them. Incense smoke swirls around the accused as the doves vanish beyond the temple towers. In this moment, shame evaporates like copal mist. What remains is a solemn promise of renewal. A lone flute player steps forward, playing a soft lament that transitions seamlessly into a hopeful melody. The courtyard sways gently to the tune, inhaling the incense and melody in equal measure. As the final notes fade, the head judge dips his fingers into the censer's ash and sprinkles a light dusting over the weaver and potter, symbolic absolution. The fine ash settles on their cloaks like blessings, erasing the charcoal streaks and marking a new beginning. By late afternoon, the courtyard has transformed into a communal workshop and feast hall. Long reed tables hold freshly woven cloth and newly fired pottery, the very craft objects remade by the atoned weaver and potter. Neighbors gather to inspect each item, handling cloth and ceramics with appreciative care. A low murmur of praise grows as the head judge walks among them, offering steaming cups of thick chocolate spiced with chili and honey. He raises his cup loudly. To creativity reborn and community sustained. The crowd echoes the toast in unison. To creativity reborn. Children dart between tables, marveling at colorful textiles and painted vessels. The weaver, seated beside her apprentice, demonstrates expert weaving techniques on a small backstrap loom. The potter guides a group of onlookers in shaping clay, their hands molding and smoothing under his careful instruction. Laughter and soft conversation fill the plaza as the sun's last rays glow amber on temple stones. In this feast of craft and communion, the lessons of the moral stage reach full bloom. Wrongdoing can be healed through skill and generosity, and every individual's artistry enriches the whole. As dusk gathers, the courtyard's mood remains bright. Proof that the Templo Mayor's moral theatre binds community through stories, ritual, and the gentle power of shared creation. Dawn's soft light, a group of 5 women emerges onto the plaza's polished basalt floor, escorted by 2 eagle knights. Each woman's face is calm but tense, revealing a mix of fear and resolve. Their cotton huipils, finely woven yet stained with ochre pigment, billow lightly in the morning breeze. The plaza's usual hum of fishmongers and potsellers falls silent as onlookers pause, baskets of flowers and maize resting at their feet. The elder judge, a matronly figure in a skirt of turquoise feathers and jade necklaces, steps forward from beneath a carved archway. Behind her, 2 female scribes unfurl amate bark scrolls, their charcoal-stained fingers tracing allegations of household neglect, adultery suspicions, and a petty theft of cloth. The accused line up before the dais, their eyes meeting both stone-carved gods overhead and sympathetic faces in the crowd. As the judge, a hush deepens. Mothers clutch curious children at their hips. Market women shift baskets to stand taller. The accused exchange lingering glances, silently gripping the cords binding their wrists. In this moment, the plaza transforms into a theatre of feminine honor and social expectation, where private matters become public and every gesture weighs upon a woman's standing. The judge raises a small copper brazier, its coals glowing red, and signals the trial's beginning. Today, the scales of justice will measure not just truth, but communal harmony. Under a canopy of woven palm leaves, a respected midwife named Citlali kneels before the female judge. She wears a simple white tunic, her hair streaked with grey and bound by a jade hairpin. Accusations claim that a recent mother lost her child due to Citlali's negligence. The air carries the scent of sweetgrass incense, mingling with the river's damp breeze. 2 matron scribes present medical codices, a series of glyphs detailing proper birthing rituals and herbal poultices. As they recite passages, Citlali's hands twist the hem of her tunic. Around them, other women of the household stand silent witness, daughters-in-law, sisters, and grandmothers, their expressions grave. The elder judge examines each script, her jade earrings catching light with every nod. Citlali rises to speak in her defense, her voice steady but sorrow-laden. She produces leaves of tlachit-chinol, healer's bark, and explains their preparation, yet admits she misinterpreted dosage. The judge tilts her head, considering the delicate balance between skill and error. In this courtyard, where life and death intertwine, the midwife's fate will be determined not by fear, but by measured compassion and restorative duty. In the heart of the courtyard, 2 benches face each other. On one sits a wife, her cotton weepel edged with crimson trim. On the other, her husband, wearing a maguey loincloth and carrying a small wooden staff. Neighbors circle them, eager for resolution of their dispute over property and honor. The wife's shawl is draped over her shoulders, concealing a bruise on her arm, testimony to last night's heated argument. The female judge gestures to a scribe, who unrolls a scroll detailing household laws on mutual respect and property rights. The judge invites each spouse to speak. The husband accuses his wife of selling cloth without sharing proceeds. She counters that he squandered their tributes on gambling. Their voices rise, but the judge lifts a hand, restoring calm. Let words be weighed, not voices. Each recounts grievances in turn, as listeners absorb every utterance. The judge then orders a silent pause. 2 drummers strike a gentle rhythm, tum, tum, allowing reflection. In that measured beat, Both spouses see the thread of their unity. Shared meals, children's laughter, the temple's yearly festivals. Under the judge's guidance, they agree to repay withheld tribute and attend daily communal work until trust is rebuilt. Thus, the court mends both property and bond. Midday heat drives the court to the cool waters of the aqueduct's baptismal pool. Here, two women accused of envy, caught whispering rumors that fractured friendships, kneel at the water's edge. They wear simple tunics now rolled to their waists, hair unbound and dripping with sweat. Temple priests stand nearby, carrying bowls of scented water mixed with ground maize and mint. The elder judge dips her fingers into a bowl and flicks droplets onto each forehead, symbolic washing of deceit from the mind. Then, she instructs the women to step into the shallow pool. As water laps their ankles, priests chanting, a low hymn to Chelchutliku, goddess of cleansing waters. The women close their eyes, tilting heads back as the scented water pours over their hair. Each droplet seems to carry away malice, leaving their spirits light. After several moments, the judge pronounces their hearts cleansed. They may return to daily life, but must offer woven bracelets of blue cotton to those they wronged. Emerging from the pool, the women's tunics cling to their bodies, faces serene. The plaza watches quietly, absorbing the transformation. In this aqueous rite, punishment becomes purification, reminding all that justice can refresh as well as reprimand. As late afternoon shadows stretch, the plaza hosts a final ceremony, weaving friendship bracelets. Long strands of dyed cotton, blue for trust, red for sincerity, are placed before neighbors, elders, and the recently purified defendants. The elder judge stands at the center, her jade necklace catching the light, and invites everyone to braid a wrist cord with the women they wronged. Each pair sits on low mats, hands intertwining threads as they speak words of goodwill. May our bond be stronger than whispered doubts. The act is silent but profound. Colorful bracelets forming a visible tapestry of renewed trust. Children pass bowls of wildflowers, weaving petals into the cords for additional blessing. The plaza bubbles with soft laughter and whispered apologies, turned into affirmations. At ceremony's end, the judge raises a final toast of foaming cacao. To trust reborn and community unbroken. Each participant lifts a cup, the rich aroma of cocoa and spices rising like a balm. The women slip bracelets onto wrists, both theirs and their neighbors, sealing the reconciliation with woven touch. As dusk descends, the plaza glows with small fires and the warmth of restored harmony, reminding all that justice in Aztec courts extends beyond verdicts into the enduring bonds of community. At first light, a procession of master builders, each a famed architect of the Great Pyramid, ascends the broad steps of Templo Mayor. Their cloaks, dyed in deep indigo and trimmed with gold, trail behind them, brushing sacred maize kernels scattered on the stone. An elder architect accused of structural miscalculations leads, head lowered, hands bound with woven cords. The plaza's usual marketplace chatter falls silent as they pass beneath an arch carved with rain cloud motifs. The head judge, draped in a cloak of roseate bird feathers, raises a conch trumpet. Its tone ripples across the steps like a ripple on the lake's surface. Two overseer priests carry large wooden tablets inscribed with schematics of the faulty pyramid tier. Misaligned blocks, uneven steps, water-eroded channels. As they lay the tablets before the court, the elder judge scans the dusty plans, tracing a finger along each error. Behind them, apprentices in simple tunics clutch chisels and measuring rods, their faces etched with worry. Spectators, city scribes, temple priests, common laborers, gather in concentric rings. Each knows that architectural failure here is more than aesthetic. It risks divine displeasure and floods when canals misdirect. In this dawn assembly, justice will measure both stone and spirit. The court relocates to the pyramid's unfinished tier, its basalt blocks misaligned by several inches. The elder judge leads the way, sandals echoing on stone, followed by the architect and apprentices. Beams of sunlight slant through temple pillars, illuminating cracks filled with moss. The judge kneels before a slanted block, running fingers over its uneven face. Nearby, a scribe crouches, sketching the misalignment onto a fresh Amate scroll. His charcoal-stained hands move deftly, capturing every small deviation. The apprentices kneel at the block's base, testing its weight and wiggling it gently. Dust puffs into the air, settling like fine ash on their shoulders. The judge stands and raises an obsidian stylus, tracing the corrected alignment on the nearby stone surface. He steps back, inspecting the supposed fix. The architect swallows and presents a bundle of measurement rods, confessing a miscalculation in the base angle. The judge's expression is solemn. Here, even a few degrees can summon floods or droughts through the rain god's whim. Behind them, an eagle knight perches on a higher ledge, observing for signs of insurrection. The plaza below remains still, witnesses to the trial of stones. In this moment, justice hinges on precision, and the fate of both builders and city balances on a sloped block. By midday, the court has commissioned master stonecutters to execute the correction ritual. At a prepared work alcove, the elder architect kneels before a row of fine-grained basalt blocks laid out like instruments. Each block bears preliminary chisel marks in red pigment, indicating the areas to be trimmed. A team of stonecutters, muscular figures in simple loincloths, steps forward, wielding sharpened basalt chisels and hammerstones. The head cutter taps a block 3 times, taps signaling readiness. In unison, they begin precise strikes along the red pigmented lines, chisel striking. Each chisel blow rings like a temple bell, sending small flakes of rock skittering across the stone floor. The elder judge watches from a raised platform, arms folded beneath feathered sleeves. Apprentices observe intently, eyes narrowed, learning the subtle art of stone balancing. The sun's glare off chipped basalt sparks like distant lightning. As each block is trimmed and slid back into place, the tier's horizontal line grows straighter, the angle truer. Once the final block clicks into perfect alignment, the head cutter wipes sweat from his brow and bows deeply to the judge. A ripple of approval sweeps the plaza, ending in gentle applause from scribes and laborers alike. In this orchestrated correction, punishment and perfection merge, a communal atonement rendered in stone and sweat. As the repaired blocks settle, a ceremonial court dancer appears, her feet bound in soft leather sandals, embedded with small hammer-shaped bells. The elder judge declares the hammered feet penalty for each misaligned inch. The architect must perform a dance that echoes precision and humility. The dancer, an apprentice architect chosen for her grace, steps onto the plaza's polished stone stage. Each measured step rings the bells in clear tones, her movements tracing geometric patterns reminiscent of pyramid tiers. The architect watches, kneeling at the stage's edge, heart pounding with each harmonic chime. The dance unfolds in 5 sections, each corresponding to a measured unit of misalignment. With each precise footfall, the bells echo through the plaza like a living metronome. The apprentices join in the corners, their own bells chiming in gentle counterpoint, symbolizing communal responsibility. Spectators sway slightly, entranced by the ritual's cadence. By the dance's end, the stage resonates with a symphony of hammered rhythm, a testament to measured correction and collective learning. The dancer's final pose mirrors the pyramid's apex, hands reaching skyward. The architect rises, bowing to the dancer and judge, accepting both the lesson and the applause. In this living penalty, punishment and artistry fuse to reinforce the sanctity of precision. At sunset, the court reconvenes at the pyramid's base for a final blessing ceremony. The blocks now form a flawless tier, reflecting the rich hues of dusk. The elder judge stands before the newly aligned section, holding a bowl of sacred maize kernels and another of perfumed water. The architect and apprentices kneel on woven mats, their hands pressed together. The judge pronounces, reverent, by Maze's bounty and water's purity, may this pyramid stand true. He scatters kernels along the tier's edge, each kernel a vow of stability. Then, he dips fingers into perfumed water, infused with mint and marigold, and anoints each builder's forehead with a single dot. Spectators, priests, laborers, market women raise offerings of woven cloth and pottery to adorn the new tier. A harpist seated nearby plucks a soft melody as torchlight flickers to life. The architect feels a warm rush of relief as neighbors step forward, placing hands on his shoulders in solidarity. As darkness deepens, the tier's surface glows under torchlight, a testament to communal atonement and skilled correction. In that tranquil moment, the plaza stands united, stone, builder, and citizen bound by shared purpose and respect for precision. The judge's final words whisper through the crowd, let this perfection echo through time. Before sunrise, families of the indebted gather at the city's North Plaza, clutching bundles of cloth and parcels of maize as payment offers. In the center, a low stone altar is draped in crimson-dyed cotton. Two notary priests kneel opposite each other, reed-bound codices open on their laps. Between them lies a blank amate bark sheet, ink and bone stylus at the ready. A man named Ocelotl steps forward, the weight of his family's debt evident in his slumped shoulders. His wife stands beside him, eyes steady. The senior notary priest, in a turquoise-hemmed cloak, intones a formal blessing to Tenochtitlan, god of commerce and travelers. As smoke curls from a small copal burner, Ocelotl places his hand on the amate sheet and signs his glyph, an obsidian knife crossed with maize stalk, pledging service in exchange for yesterday's loan. The priest dips the stylus in red pigment and stamps the contract's margins with his thumbprint. Two eagle knights lean in to witness, ensuring the pledge's solemnity. A hush grips the plaza as the codex is closed. For Ocelotl, the inked contract binds him to months of labor under another's roof. Yet, in his wife's supportive grasp, there is comfort. This ritual, though harsh, carries the promise of eventual release. As the sun ascends, the plaza's eastern end transforms into an auction ground. A carved wooden dais holds a shallow bowl of maize kernels, each symbolizing a day's labor. Neighbors gather in tight circles, whispering assessments of labor value. Ocelotl is presented by the Eagle Knights to the auctioneer, an authoritative scribe in a white loincloth who dips a finger into the maize bowl and sprinkles 5 kernels onto the dais, declaring 50 days of service. Prospective masters step forward. A weaver seeking skilled hands, a farmer needing canal diggers, and a temple servant craving steady upkeep labor. They chant offers in rhythmic cadences. 40 days for textiles, 45 days for irrigation, tapping maize kernels in countersigned reeds. Ocelotl's brow furrows. Each maize placement echoes through the hushed crowd. When the final bid settles at 40 days, his new master, a kindly elder weaver, steps forward, placing his hand on Ocelotl's shoulder in affirmation. The auctioneer retrieves the remaining maize kernels and offers them to Ocelotl's wife, who accepts them on her husband's behalf. In this moment, debt transforms into clear terms of service, and Ocelotl's path, though marked by labor, is defined. Under the midday sun, Ocelotl and fellow indentured laborers trek to a nearby canal, their woven belts swinging chisels and hoes. Eagle signs, the tall staves of eagle knights, march beside them, enforcing order without brutality. Along the water's edge, they kneel to repair eroded banks, chiseling away hardened clay, smoothing fresh repaired stone, and guiding water flow back to its intended course. Sweat drips into the canal as Ocelotl works tirelessly, each chisel strike echoing against stone walls. A foreman priest in a white cloak oversees the work, tallying each laborer's progress on a reed tablet. The priest dips a stylus into clay and marks a small grove symbol for every hour completed. Around them, the water reflects temple towers and drifting lilies, an ever-present reminder of the god's favor or wrath upon crops. Midway through the shift, the foreman calls for a brief rest. Laborers gather under the shade of ceiba trees, sharing tortillas and water. Ocelotl's new master, watching from a raised platform, approaches and offers a sweet tamale, a gesture both of authority and compassion. As Ocelotl accepts, the foreman tallies additional kernels for quality work, promising reduced days of service. After several weeks of labor, the day of Michaluitl arrives, a festival honoring dead ancestors and forgiving debts. The plaza is transformed. Altars draped in marigold flowers line the edges, and banners of blue and white cloth flutter overhead. Indentured laborers gather, their duties momentarily set aside, as the city celebrates compassion. The head priest steps forward in a cloak of macaw feathers, raising a conch trumpet. Its call summons the community to witness a collective act of mercy. One by one, former debtors present their tally tablets. The priest inspects each, then taps it with his staff, erasing half the recorded days. Murmurs of relief ripple through the crowd as animators rebind cords at shorter lengths. Ocelotl's tablet, originally 40 days, now reads 20. Exhales, shoulders light, as his wife places a hand on his arm. To seal the pardon, the priest sprinkles petals of marigold tea over the tablets, coaxing smiles. A flute and drum ensemble begins a soft melody, and dancers in white loincloths perform a gentle ritual dance, weaving between former debtors and celebrating families. In this festival's compassionate embrace, debt transforms into gratitude and renewal. As afternoon light softens, the plaza's center fills with low reed tables laden with stews of amaranth, roasted turkey, tamales, and frothy cacao. Indentured laborers, now with shortened terms, sit beside former masters in humble solidarity. A senior elder raises a carved stone goblet to renewal of bonds and shared prosperity. The crowd echoes, shared prosperity. Ocelotl lifts his goblet to his masters, their eyes meeting in mutual respect. Around them, neighbors pass bowls of turkey meat and sweet beans. Children weave small blue and white bracelets, tokens of the festival's mercy, to hang on the temple gates. As they eat, stories flow, laughter at past mishaps in the canal repairs, admiringly admiration for the weaver's tapestries, grateful gratitude for collective support. The head priest circulates, distributing maize cakes sweetened with honey. He pauses at Ocelotl's table, nods in approval and murmurs, softly, balanced. In this warm glow of shared meal and memory, the plaza's earlier rituals find their culmination. Debt has become lesson, labor has fostered unity, and mercy has blossomed into feasting. As dusk settles, the community remains bound not by cords of obligation, but by ties of compassion and hope. Before the sun's first glow, a gentle murmur rises as citizens bearing pleas for mercy converge on the temple of the feathered serpent. Men and women clutch reed-bound petitions, some tied with white cotton, others sealed with red pigment. Among them stands Jaguar, a young craftsman whose kiln failure left him unable to repay communal tribute. He breathed the cool dawn air, heart fluttering with hope and fear. The overhead frieze of coiled serpents seems to watch as petitioners form a loose procession, led by two feathered banner bearers. Quetzal green and cobalt blue plumes shimmer in the pre-dawn haze. An eagle knight patrols the perimeter, ensuring order without intimidation. Small groups murmur prayers to Mixcoatl, patron of mercy, while offering sprigs of copal. The grand stone steps of the temple await them, ancient glyphs recording past acts of clemency carved into each worn riser. As the crowd settles at the base, a hush falls. The morning chorus of temple birds provides a soft accompaniment. Xiacoatl steps forward, petition in hand, eyes fixed on the high priest's shadowed silhouette above. In these hushed moments, the promise of mercy hangs as palpably as the quetzal feathers overhead. At the summit of the steps, the high priest and two senior acolytes stand behind a stone lectern carved with feather motifs. The high priest's voice carries across the plaza as he calls forth each petitioner by name. First comes Xiacoatl, knees slightly bent in respect. He unrolls his petition, a plea to absolve his tribute debt, and speaks of the kiln's collapse and his family's plight. The acolytes lean forward, one holding a clay bowl to catch loose scroll fragments, the other dipping a reed stylus into ochre pigment. As Xiacoatl speaks, his words echo against the temple walls. Some petitioners murmur in solidarity, others bow their heads. The high priest listens with closed eyes, nodding thoughtfully. Around them, the plaza remains wrapped, birds silent in their woven nests. When Xiacoatl finishes, the acolyte gently stamps his petition's margin with a quetzal feather seal, an acknowledgement of hearing rather than judgment. He steps aside to make room for the next petitioner, a former soldier seeking pardon for minor insubordination. Each plea unfolds in turn, weaving a tapestry of human need beneath the temple's soaring arches. Once petitions are collected, the high priest summons the fan of clemency, a broad quetzal feather fan mounted on a carved wooden handle inlaid with mother of pearl. Two acolytes retrieve it from a sanctuary niche, the fan's lush feathers shimmering emerald and gold. It is the sacred instrument of mercy. The high priest ascends to the lectern's center and, with measured grace, unfurls the fan. A hush, so deep, descends that only the rustle of feathers is audible. He raises the fan above his head, then lowers it gently toward each petitioner in turn. As its emerald plumage brushes the air, a quivering breeze sweeps across the plaza, chilling the skin and carrying the promise of pardon. Xiacoatl steps forward once more. The fan arcs toward him, and he closes his eyes as a single feather droops before his forehead. The high priest's voice intones, reverently, "By this breath of the quetzal, be forgiven." A collective exhalation ripples through those watching. Each petitioner receives the same benediction, the quetzal breeze weaving through their ranks like divine reprieve. With the fan ceremony complete, the high priest raises his conch trumpet once more, this time to proclaim formal pardons. The trumpet's clear call rings out, signaling that each named petitioner is free of their specified debts or infractions. The plaza's hush breaks in spontaneous applause and murmurs of relief. Xiacoatl steps forward and bows deeply. Two eagle knights approach, with reed baskets filled with white cotton cords, the tokens of clemency. Each cord is looped thrice and bears a small quetzal feather charm. An eagle knight places the looped cord over Xiacoatl's shoulders, and he feels its weight as both symbol and gift. As others receive their cords, families rush forward. Xiacoatl's wife unties his petition scroll and rolls it into a keepsake bundle, securing it with a violet ribbon. Neighbors clap his back and whisper blessings. High priest descends the steps, smiling across the crowd. In this jubilant moment, mercy is made tangible through cords, feathers, and trumpet calls. As midday's sun filters through feathered banners, the plaza transforms into a jubilee of mercy. Long reed tables are laden with tamales, grilled turkey, sweet cacao, and trays of candied fruits. Musicians, harp, flute, and drum, strike up a gentle tune, its melody weaving through cheering voices. A raised dais hosts a blessing. The high priest sprinkles perfumed water and marigold petals over the feast, invoking Tlaloc's gentle rains of mercy. Petitioners, now pardoned, take seats beside friends and strangers alike. Sayacotl sits with his wife, savoring each tamale as neighbors pass platters. Laughter and conversation flow, a rhythmic tapestry of renewed hope. Children dart among tables, tying quetzal charm cords onto each other's wrists. Eagle knights relax at the mesa's edge, offering smiles instead of stares. The Jubilee's warmth bathes the plaza. Mercy acknowledged, debts forgiven, community bound anew. In this feast of renewal, the feathered fan's benediction echoes in every heart, and in every feather drifting softly to the stone floor. Under the hush of pre-dawn, a narrow side corridor behind the Templo Mayor's east wing opens onto a dimly lit chamber of polished basalt. Here, the Codex of Unwritten Offences is guarded. A hooded scribe kneels before a stone lectern, the Codex's vellum pages flickering in torchlight. Two eagle knights stand sentinel, plumed helmets lowered in respect. A masked judge, her quetzal feather mantle brushing the floor, enters, followed by petitioners accused of unspoken wrongs, secret slanders, broken oaths, hidden sorceries. Among them stands Xucotl, a young artisan rumored to have whispered lies against a noble. His palms sweat as he steps forward, the chamber's cool air sharpening every breath. The judge's voice is a whisper, yet carries authority. Let the hidden charges be revealed. The scribe cracks open the codex, its pages inscribed with invisible inks that only the flame's heat reveals. One by one, accusations emerge in glowing glyphs, each a violation too delicate for public plaza, yet requiring justice. In this chamber, silence is broken not by drums or trumpets, but by the soft revelation of truth. The first glowing glyphs coalesce into the accusation against Xucotl. Whispered against High Noble Yoltzin. The judge raises her staff and intones, sternly, "Speak truth or silence forever." Xucotl swallows, voice trembling as he admits the slander born of envy, confessing each whispered word in turn. In the flickering torchlight, the scribe notes every confession on a fresh amate scroll, sealing it with red pigment thumbprints. Outside, the distant clatter of the waking city contrasts this secluded reckoning. As Xucotl speaks, he recalls the moment of temptation, a fleeting insult on a crowded causeway. His eyes glisten, remorse laid bare. When his confession ends, the judge leans forward and dips a feather into a bowl of scented water, tracing a cool line across his brow. Calmly, "Let this cleansing mark your vow of silence and purification." The scented droplets hiss softly on skin. In that intimate chamber, the quiet admission dissolves a hidden offense, restoring balance without spectacle. Next is Tequani, a midwife accused of wielding illicit potions. She kneels before the codex as its pages reveal glyphs for elixirs of binding will. The judge's voice is measured, calmly. "Confess the herbs that you concealed." Tequani lifts a small bundle of dried flowers and herbs, marigold, tlachichinole, and the forbidden manzanilla. The scribe passes her a clay bowl. She pours warm water over the herbs, releasing fragrant steam that curls toward the vaulted ceiling. Under torchlight, the flame's heat reveals a glowing glyph for healing. Tequani explains she intended only to soothe a friend's pains, not to bewitch. Her voice steadies with resolve as she names each plant and its purpose. The judge dips a jade blade's tip into the steam and flicks droplets onto Tequani's palms. Solemnly, "May your craft serve life, not chains." The droplets dance on her skin, blessing her intent. In the hush that follows, even the eagle knights bow their heads in solemn understanding. Sometimes the unwritten must be spoken to restore trust. The third petitioner is Ahuk, a quill scribe accused of breaking a secret oath of silence. He steps forward, cloak drawn tight, as the codex reveals glyphs for oath-bound quill. The judge's voice is soft but firm. "Speak the words you swore never to share." Ahuk's reed quill trembles as he reads aloud the whispered incantation he promised to keep secret. Each word echoes in the chamber, illuminating the codex's glyphs for binding promise. The scribe's charcoal-stained fingers trace the revealed runes. A hush deepens as Ahuic's voice falters at the final syllable. He bows his head. I have honored truth by confessing this breach. The judge nods and retrieves a small clay figurine shaped like a bound codex. With a single tap on Ahuic's shoulder, she bestows a silent pardon, allowing him to reclaim both his word and quill. In this moment, the unspoken finds voice and is laid to rest, the sacred pact renewed beneath the flickering torches. As dawn's first light filters through high windows, the final petitioner, a humble gardener named Citlali, is ushered forth. She stands before the codex, its pages now inscribed with 3 glowing columns of confession. The judge holds a small bowl of red ochre pigment. Commands. Seal your truth in clay, she commands. Citlali dips her fingertips into the pigment and presses them onto a final empty page, each thumbprint a vow of integrity. A hush follows, broken only by the click of her fingers against basalt. The glowing glyphs fade, returning the codex to its silent slumber. The hooded scribe closes the book reverently, securing its clasp with a quetzal feather cord. The judge steps back and addresses all present, solemnly. The unwritten is now concluded. Let these secrets remain known only to truth. She dismisses the chamber, and the Eagle Knights lower torches, revealing faces softened by relief. Xiucutl, Tecuani, Ahuic, and Citlali exchange grateful nods as they file past the judge. In the quiet aftermath, the hidden world of unspoken offences has been tended, and the unseen roots of harmony restored. At first light, the children of Tenochtitlan gather by the temple's low stone balustrade. Their ages range from 5 to 12, faces bright with curiosity and nerves. Each wears a simple cotton tunic dyed in pale hues, light blues, soft yellows, denoting their family's kalpoli, clan. They stand in orderly rows clutching woven mats and small reed tablets for lessons. A matronly judge, herself once a child under these same stones, appears wearing a feather-trimmed skirt and jade bracelets. She carries a reed stylus and a small clay bowl of pigment. 2 Eagle Knight wardens flank her, their ornate helmets tucked under arms to seem less intimidating. As she taps the stylus on her palm, a hush falls. The youngest children fidget, while the older ones crane their necks to see. The judge's voice, gentle yet authoritative, calls forth the first juvenile, little Huitzlin, accused of scribbling graffiti on the schoolhouse wall. He steps forward, cheeks flushed. The judge holds his reed tablet, showing a crude depiction of a parrot etched in charcoal. In this ceremonial morning lineup, youth and justice meet in a guided ritual, one designed to teach responsibility rather than inflict fear. Under the sprawling shade of a ficus tree, the judge gathers the children around a carved stone bench depicting a crouching jaguar. Today's lesson: respect for communal property. Each child places their woven mat on the ground, seating themselves cross-legged. The judge draws a shallow jaguar outline in the dirt with her stylus. She recounts a tale of a young noble who defaced the jaguar sculpture and hurled stones at market stalls. The adults punished him by forced labor. The judge's eyes meet each child's, thoughtful, inviting empathy. Then, using a small bowl of red pigment, she invites each child to trace the jaguar's outline, learning precision and care. The children lean in, stylus tips trembling as they follow the judge's gentle guidance. When a line wavers, the judge dips her finger in pigment and corrects it, offering words like gentle. A careful hand builds respect. The children nod, absorbing the lesson through both story and action. In this living classroom, moral instruction blends with tactile practice, ensuring that respect for art and property takes root in youthful hearts. Mid-morning brings a shift, a corrective game designed to teach teamwork and adherence to rules. The judge unveils a set of willow hoops, each adorned with colorful feathers. red macaw, green quetzal, white egret. She divides the children into small teams of 3 and assigns each a hoop. The objective? Pass the feathered ring from child to child without using hands, only by bending elbows and guiding it along a choreographed path. Cuckle. Laughter bubbles as the first team fumbles, feathers flitting free. The judge coaches them in measured tones. Calmly. Keep the pace slow. Trust your partner. Young Huitzlin, cheeks still red from earlier, steadies his hoop and places it on a teammate's elbow with care. With each successful pass, the children gain confidence and cooperation. A row of parents watches from a distance, nodding approval. The judge announces the end of the game when all teams complete 3 full cycles. In this playful correction, the children learn that to uphold rules, whether in games or in courts, they must combine skill with empathy. As afternoon sun gilds temple stones, the judge invites each child to recite the youth oath of respect. A polished reed staff stands at the dais, symbolizing the weight of words spoken. One by one, the children approach, place a hand on the staff and speak in clear voices. I vow to honor our laws, respect our people, and guard communal harmony. When Huitzlin's turn arrives, he hesitates only briefly before placing his small hand atop the staff. His peers watch in silence, then softly echo his words. With each oath, the judge dips a feather into a clay bowl of pigment and touches it to the child's forehead, marking the promise. Crimson dots appear on 10 young brows, each a beacon of commitment. As the final oath is sworn, the judge raises her hands and proclaims, "Let their words stand firm like stone." A chorus of drummers begins a slow, steady beat, and the children form a circle, joining hands. The rhythmic pulse carries them in a gentle dance around the reed staff. In this closing ritual, the lessons of accountability, cooperation, and respect crystallize, ensuring that justice in Aztec courts includes nurturing the next generation. Before dawn's first light, the accused, Citlali the cat thief, stands bound at the grove's entrance, flanked by 2 Jaguar Knights. The sacred grove, ringed by towering saber and ahuehuete trees, holds legend of divine hunts. Citlali's crime, stealing temple cats favored by priestesses, has offended both mortals and gods. As a hush falls, a priest in a jaguar pelt cloak steps forward, raising a conch shell. Its call resonates through the tree trunks, summoning the hunt's ritual. Nearby, 2 huntsmen stand ready, their reed baskets filled with hunting cords and flint-tipped lances. Citlali's hands tremble against her simple cotton tunic, the fabric damp with dew. A distant drum roll beats once, steady and somber, drawing all eyes to the grove's shadowed path. Spectators, wrapped in magway cloth and carrying woven mats, watch in respectful silence. In this charged moment, punishment will become penance in the hunt's crucible. As the conscious echo fades, the huntsmen release a small captive deer to lead the chase. Citlali, her feet bare on the forest floor, follows with a slender lance in hand. Moonlight filters through the canopy, casting dappled shadows. Jagged roots and low branches threaten to trip her, yet each step is purposeful. The first hunt section tests agility. Citlali must stalk the deer without breaking branches or making noise. Every crack underfoot carries weight, every breath measured. The huntsmen trail behind, offering occasional guidance in low whispers. Slow, steady, blend with shadow. She pauses as a deer bleats softly, then crouches to peer through ferns. In that hush, forest night sounds, owl calls, rustling leaves become her accomplices. Behind her, the Jaguar Knights scan for infractions. A single misstep, snapped twig, could cost her time or status. Yet Citlali presses on, determination hardening like flint. By the hunt's first break, a clearing where torches burn in iron braziers, she glimpses the deer's white flank, disappearing into mist. The grove holds its breath for the next trial. At the clearing's edge stands a circle of quarried obsidian shards, each blade half embedded in the earth. The next trial. Retrieve a shard without laceration. Citlali kneels, heart pounding as mist swirls around her ankles. A huntsman hands her a thong of twisted maguey fiber. She must wrap it around the chosen shard, extract it, and present it whole. Silence. Silence reigns as she threads the fiber around a triangular shard, its edge gleaming like captured starlight. With deliberate care, she pulls, stone grating against stone, drawing it free. A bead of blood forms on her fingertip where the fiber cuts. She pauses, pressing palm to panting lips. Around her, Jaguar Knights lean forward, amber eyes unblinking. At length, Citlali holds the intact shard aloft. The huntsman inspects its edge against a bone tool, nodding once. The queen black obsidian reflects torchlight. No chip mars the blade. A murmur of approval ripples through assembled watchers. In this test of precision, injury itself becomes lesson, teaching respect for both tool and task. As dusk falls, the hunt's final trial unfolds on the causeway spanning Lake Texcoco. Citlali must pursue a sacred waterfowl released at the walkway's far end and capture its tail feather. The causeway's polished stone glistens under torchlight, and ripples lap at its edges. Clutching her lance and remaining maguey cords, Citlali runs along the narrow path. The waterfowl lifts off with a squawk, skimming low above the water's surface. Each footfall echoes, the causeway's stones unforgiving. A Jaguar Knight at the midpoint raises a braided rope barrier. Citlali must duck under without breaking stride. She slides beneath the rope, narrowly avoiding a spray of water as her heel splashes. At the far end, the bird circles atop a low pilaster. Citlali leaps onto the pilaster's broad capstone, balancing with outstretched arms. The bird flaps its wings. She extends her cord, looping it around the feathered tip. A frantic tug, and the feather tears free. The huntsman retrieves it, smoothing its edge. Citlali kneels in gratitude, the breeze from the lake carrying her relief. Under the starlit sky, Citlali returns to the grove's heart, clutching the sacred feather and obsidian shard. The huntsman and Jaguar Knights form a protective circle around her. At center, a shallow basin filled with cool water awaits. The priest steps forward again, holding a carved stone bowl of scented maize-infused water. Citlali first places the obsidian shard atop a mossy stone altar. The priest sprinkles maize water around it, murmuring prayers to the earth goddess. Then she offers the quill-like waterfowl feather to the priest, who dips its tip in the bowl and flicks droplets onto Citlali's forehead, signaling absolution. The feather floats away on the basin's surface, carried by gentle ripples. The priest's voice rings, reverent. By quarry and wing, you are cleansed. Jaguar Knights lower their staves and step back. Citlali, tears glinting, kneels to cup the basin's water and wash her face. Spectators bow heads in reverence. In this final rite, punishment transforms into liberation. The hunted becomes the purified, and the grove's sacred balance is restored. As the first rosy fingers of sunrise brush Tenochtitlan's rooftops, two priest enforcers, each clad in flowing white tunics and feathered collars, descend the broad causeway from the Templo Mayor. In their hands they carry folded amate bark edicts, sealed with red pigment. Divine mandates from the Council of Priests. Their sandals whisper on polished stone as they pass sleeping households, lanterns swinging gently at their sides. At each courtyard gate, they pause and lay the edict on a carved stone plinth, tapping it thrice with a jade-tipped staff. The gentle tock-tock-tock echoes in the near silence. Within minutes, household heads emerge, blinking against dawn's glow, unsealing the edicts and reading the priest's words. Upcoming communal fast days, mandated offerings, or calls for volunteer labor in temple gardens. Some edicts require public atonement for minor infractions. Others summon families to present small gifts of maize and flowers. As the priest enforcers move on, children rise to gather these edicts and deliver them to neighbors. The courtyard stirs to life, a ripple of activity that begins with the unrolling of divine scrolls. In these first moments of mourning, the invisible hand of the priesthood enforces harmony and piety, reminding every family that the god's will is woven into daily routine. Long after dusk, when most of the city sleeps, the priest enforcers reappear, this time cloaked in indigo robes and silent sandals. They move from dwelling to dwelling, carrying small ceramic bowls of sacred water and ritual reeds. At each threshold, they tap the bowl's rim with a slender stylus, producing a soft, haunting that stirs residents from slumber. Huddled in darkness, household members open doors to see the indigo-robed figures standing solemnly. One enforcer lifts a reed and writes a single glyph of remembrance in scented water on the wooden lintel. The other hands over a folded reed scroll, an urgent reminder of a coming temple service or a need to prepare offerings before dawn. In hushed tones, the enforcers whisper the temple's instructions, prepare the offerings by first light. Then, without a word more, they slip away into shadowy alleys, leaving behind glyphs that glisten briefly before evaporating or being washed away at sunrise. The midnight door taps serve both as gentle reprimands and sacred nudges, ensuring that obligations to the gods are neither forgotten nor overstepped. By mid-morning, families summoned by edict gather at the communal well in the heart of the plaza. A low basalt basin is filled with fresh spring water, infused overnight with copal incense and marigold petals. Two priest enforcers stand opposite each other, holding reed baskets of scented water for penance. A mother named Malinar Xochitl steps forward, accused of neglecting her garden offerings. She kneels at the well's edge, cupping her hands. The first enforcer dips her fingers into the marigold-laced water and sprinkles droplets across Malinar Xochitl's brow and clasped palms. Each drop hisses softly on skin, releasing fragrant steam. The second enforcer hands her a small maize meal ball to cast into the well, symbolic of leaving behind the offense. Spectators circle at a respectful distance, murmuring prayers as each participant receives their penance. Children watch wide-eyed, learning the ritual's form. When Malinar Xochitl casts her maize ball, it sinks slowly, rippling the scented water. She rises, shoulders eased of burden. Through this tactile ceremony, penance is not punishment alone, but purification, binding the offender back into community and divine grace. As the sun climbs, the entire community gathers in the temple courtyard for a communal prayer led by the priest enforcers and senior acolytes. A low stone altar, draped in white cloth and strewn with maize and flowers, stands at the center. Dozens of woven mats fan out around it, where families kneel shoulder to shoulder. The head enforcer raises a hollowed reed tube and sounds a single low note, signaling the start. Together, they chant an invocation to the four cardinal deities, Tlaloc, Quetzalcoatl, Huitzilopochtli, and Tezcatlipoca, each name punctuated by the ringing of small copper bells. The crowd's voices swell into a melodic hum, hands raised in unison. Every so often, a priest enforcer steps forward to sprinkle droplets of holy water from a reed basket across the kneeling masses. The water's arc glitters in sunlight, blessing each head it touches. In this unified ritual, the invisible boundaries between offender and observer dissolve, forging communal resilience and shared faith. As dusk's golden light softens into evening, the final act unfolds, absolution. The priest enforcers reconvene at the temple's front steps, attended by acolytes bearing reed scrolls of recorded penances. The same households summoned at dawn now stand in a line before the altar. The head enforcer raises a conch trumpet and sounds 3 long notes, a benediction of release. In turn, each family head steps forward, untying the red pigment seal on their scroll and handing it back. The priest enforcer then breaks the reed scroll in 2, symbolizing the end of obligation. A soft crack echoes in the cooling air. With each broken scroll, families exhale in unison, shoulders lifting, faces unburdened. The priest enforcers bestow a final sprinkle of sacred water and a small maize kernel, token of renewed favor. Children scatter petals across the steps, their giggles mingling with the fading chant. As night fully descends, the courtyard glows with torchlight and relief. The shadow enforcement of the priests has come full circle. Punishment transformed into forgiveness, and order restored beneath the watchful eyes of the gods. At dawn's first golden rays, the plaza outside the Templo Mayor thrums with anticipation. 4 painter offenders, each found guilty of defacing sacred murals, are led forward in simple linen tunics. The elder judge, robed in a brilliant feather mantle, stands beside a blank basalt wall awaiting its new adornment. 2 artist priests bear palettes of vegetable-based pigments, cochineal red, indigo blue, and lime white. The judge addresses the crowd. Your atonement shall be creation. Each painter kneels in turn, head bowed as the judge places a length of dyed cotton cord over their shoulders, tokens commissioning them to restore beauty through service. The artist priests hand each a brush, carved from eagle feather quills. As the cords settle, apprehension shades the offender's eyes, knowing their mistakes will become a lesson painted large for all to see. Around them, spectators, temple attendants, apprentices, and curious citizens murmur approval, some clutching small votive scrolls. The basalt wall's surface gleams bare, ready to receive their first strokes. In this ritual commission, art becomes penance, and creativity the path to redemption. Under a canopy of woven reed mats near the temple's colonnade, the painter offenders gather with the artist priests and senior scribes. A low basalt table holds bowls of crushed pigments and small reed scrolls depicting traditional motifs. The maze cycle, the feathered serpent, the sunstone, and the underworld jaguar. The judge inspects each scroll, then passes them in turn to the painters. With a careful breath, one offender unrolls the scroll showing the maze cycle glyph and reads aloud its story of life, death, and rebirth. Another selects the feathered serpent motif, invoking creation's duality. The artist priests guide a circle drawn in the sand, each painter placing a pebble at the motif they feel aligns with their offense, symbolic of choice and responsibility. As the final pebbles are placed, the judge murmurs a blessing. May your chosen image restore both wall and spirit. The scribes seal the selections with red pigment, tying each scroll to the painter's waist. In this deliberate choice, each artist claims both fault and atonement, ready to transform the temple's surface and their own reputation through sacred imagery. Under a canopy of woven reed mats near the temple's colonnade, the painter offenders gather with the artist priests and senior scribes. A low basalt table holds bowls of crushed pigments and small reed scrolls depicting traditional motifs: the maze cycle, the feathered serpent, the sunstone, and the underworld jaguar. The judge inspects each scroll, then passes them in turn to the painters. With a careful breath, one offender unrolls the scroll, showing the maze cycle glyph, and reads aloud its story of life, death, and rebirth. Another selects the feathered serpent motif, invoking creation's duality. The artist priests guide a circle drawn in the sand, each painter placing a pebble at the motif they feel aligns with their offense, symbolic of choice and responsibility. As the final pebbles are placed, the judge murmurs a blessing. May your chosen image restore both wall and spirit. The scribes seal the selections with red pigment, tying each scroll to the painter's waist. In this deliberate choice, each artist claims both fault and atonement, ready to transform the temple's surface and their own reputation through sacred imagery. Through the morning and into afternoon, the painters work side by side on the basalt wall. Each stands before their designated panel, some illustrating maze ears sprouting in concentric rings, others forming a sinuous feather serpent winding upward. Artist priests crouch at intervals, offering guidance on brush angle and pigment mixing. Bright pigments, deep cochineal red, volcanic ash grey, quetzal green, flow from shell dishes onto eagle feather brushes. The painter's strokes vary, broad sweeps for backgrounds, fine tip work for glyph details. Passers-by pause to admire emerging colours. Apprentices mimic techniques on sketch tablets, and temple attendants offer cups of cacao and water. By noon, half the mural gleams under the sun's glare. A gentle, short pause, hush, falls when a senior priest inspects the progress, dipping his finger in pigment to mark a corrected curve. The painters absorb each note, adjusting lines until motifs align perfectly with carved guides. In this collaborative session, art and ritual merge, turning atonement into vibrant restoration. As the sun dips toward the horizon, the mural is complete. A radiant tableau of maize blossoms, feathered serpents, and sunstone glyphs. The judge returns, accompanied by hummingbird priests who carry bowls of perfumed water and marigold petals. The painters stand before their finished panels, robes brushed clean and cords of red, now vibrant. The judge holds a quetzal-plumed fan and begins the blessing. Solemnly, by earth's bounty, sky's wisdom, and heart's craft, let this work stand sacred. He fans aromatic air across the mural, sending petals fluttering onto the painted surface. Hummingbird priests sprinkle scented water in arcs, each drop hissing on sun-warmed basalt. The painters kneel, heads bowed, as the final benediction settles. A distant chorus of drummers and flutists rises in cadence, their melody weaving through the courtyard. The blessing consecrates both art and artist, transforming past errors into a communal offering of beauty and devotion. On the festival's dawn, a grand unveiling parade processes through the city's causeways. The painters lead, carrying reed poles draped with the same red cords they wore, followed by the judge and artist priests. Behind them, dancers in maize-yellow costumes and feathered headdresses perform slow, celebratory steps. Drummers beat a stately rhythm, flutes trill a melody of rebirth. Citizens line the streets, bearing small reed torches and woven banners echoing the mural's motifs. As the parade nears the temple wall, the painter-offenders release the cords from their poles. A collective pull unfurls bright cloth curtains, revealing the mural's full splendor for the first time. Gasps of awe and murmured blessings ripple through the crowd. The judge raises his staff and proclaims, "Behold the power of creation and redemption united." The dancers circle the mural, scattering petals and offering rhythmic blessings. The painters stand proud before their work, redeemed by beauty and service. In this jubilant procession, the community celebrates art as both penance and gift, ensuring the mural's story endures in stone, pigment, and memory. As dusk settles over Tenochtitlan's central plaza, a semicircle of onlookers forms around a low basalt stage. Two flautists and a drummer take their places beneath flickering torches. The accused, a merchant named Tenochtitlan, stands at center, bound by a woven cord dyed indigo. He's charged with selling adulterated salt. The head music judge, clad in a mantle of hummingbird feathers, raises a carved conch trumpet and signals the start. A slow, mournful melody begins on long-bone flutes, their notes rising and falling like ocean waves. With each phrase, the drummer taps a steady heartbeat. Tenochtitlan must respond in song, recounting every detail of each sail. His voice trembles as he sings of brine weighed down by fillers, his words echoing against temple walls. If his melody falters or he skips a sail, the rhythm will falter, marking him a liar. Spectators lean in, eyes reflecting torchlight, as Tenochtitlan's song weaves through the plaza. When he pauses, the drumbeat stutters, an audible rebuke. Onlookers murmur encouragement. Urged by the flautist's rising pitch, Tenochtitlan steadies his voice and continues, each line met by unbroken rhythm. In this ritual of melody and meter, truth is measured not on scales of gold, but on the integrity of verse. Following the song trial, the music judge proclaims Tenochtitlan's partial guilt. For each mismeasured sail, he must perform a flute recital of penance. Tenochtitlan steps back as a young apprentice flautist hands him a reed flute carved with maize motifs. The judge nods, and the plaza's torches flare brighter. Tecoyotl raises the flute to his lips and begins a slow, sorrowful tune. Each sustained note corresponds to a unit of deception, harsh at first, then softening as the merchant's remorse deepens. Apprentices count each note on rearranged tally rods. A gentle breeze stirs the torches, making flame shadows dance across weathered stones. As Tecoyotl's recital continues, his posture relaxes. The melody shifts from grief to hope. Spectators close their eyes, absorbing the atonement in sound. When the final note fades into the night air, the judge steps forward, flute in hand, and adds a harmonious counter-melody, a sign that the court accepts Tecoyotl's penance through music. With the flute recital complete, the judge invites Tecoyotl to perform a rhythmic confession. The drummer steps forward, replacing the bone flutes with a larger hand drum, its hide stretched tight. Tecoyotl kneels and places both hands on the drum's surface. The judge nods, and the drum emits a low, resonant dum, dum. Each beat prompts Tecoyotl to confess a specific offense. Dum, sold short by 2 measure units. Dum, mix sand with salt. Dum, ignored rightful weight. His voice is clear, measured by drumbeat. The plaza echoes with the interplay of confession and percussion, transforming private guilt into public rhythm. As Tecoyotl completes the final confession, the rhythm accelerates. Dum-to-dum-to-dum, symbolizing his heart's lightened burden. Onlookers clap in time, sealing his honesty with communal applause. The music judge raises his staff, and the drumbeat shifts to a triumphant flourish, marking the transition from penance to absolution through shared rhythm. Under a moonlit sky, the judge lifts his conch trumpet for one final note, a sustained call that resonates across stone and air. Immediately, flutes, drum, and dancers converge in a triumphant crescendo. Tecoyotl, now unbound and adorned in feathered regalia, steps forward and raises his own flute. The ensemble's melody swells. Flute harmonies soar above rolling drumbeats and the clatter of anklets. Tecoyotl joins with a clear, hopeful trill, his own redemption woven into the music. Spectators stomp rhythms with their feet, turning the plaza into a living chorus of absolution. As the final chord hangs in the night air, the judge lowers his trumpet and extends a hand to Tecoyotl. The crowd erupts in cheers, the sound rippling like water across Lake Texcoco. The music judge proclaims, "By song, rhythm, and step, you are cleansed." In that moment, artistry and justice merge, leaving both performer and audience bound in harmonious forgiveness under the stars. As the drum's final echo fades, the music judge announces the dance penance. Tecoyotl must perform the feathered steps to complete his atonement. 2 dance priests, emerging from shadow, bring quetzal-plume anklets and a small woven skirt for Tecoyotl. Spectators clear a circle on the plaza's smooth basalt. Tecoyotl fastens the anklets. They chime like distant bells and dons the skirt, its green plumes rustling. The flautists resume, playing a slow ritual melody. Tecoyotl's movements are deliberate, heel-toe, tracing geometric patterns that echo temple glyphs. With each measured step, his chin lifts and his gaze steadies. Mid-dance, his foot missteps on a small pebble. The chime falters, and the crowd gasps. Tecoyotl pauses, bows his head, then resumes. This time more mindful, heel-toe. The procession of steps becomes both apology and resolve. As the dance concludes, the quetzal-plume skirt fans outward in a final spin, and the flutes soar to a gentle close. In the year 1521, under a bright midday sun, 2 Spanish chroniclers, Bernardino de Sahagún and Andrés de Tapia, arrive at the deserted plaza, formerly thrumming with Aztec justice rituals. They carry parchment and quill, eyes wide at the still intact basalt dais and faded feather dust remnants clinging to its edges. An old eagle knight, now community elder, recounts in broken Nahuatl Spanish the peculiar punishments and ceremonies he witnessed. The feathered fan of mercy, the music trial of liars, and the penance hunts in sacred groves. As they sketch the plaza and translate glyph fragments, the chroniclers debate which practices to record in their Florentine codex and which to dismiss as pagan spectacle. Yet even they cannot ignore the moral logic woven into each ritual. Restitution through service, confession by rhythm, redemption via art. The plaza's silence seems to echo with past drumbeats and flute calls. An auditory ghost that spurs the Spaniards to capture what remains. Here, in that hushed space between worldviews, Aztec justice meets European law. The chronicler's quills scratch in unison, preserving both awe and unease. Their writings will shape how future generations understand these shadowed courts, blending reverence for order with colonial judgments of barbarism. In this liminal moment, justice's legacy is at the mercy of translation. Within the newly erected Spanish tribunal nearby, Nahua nobles stand trial under European codes. A highborn Aztec noble, once judge of the feathered fan, now listens as a Spanish magistrate reads charges of idolatry and sedition. The noble's maize-yellow cloak contrasts sharply with the magistrate's black robes and steel gauntlets. Outside, the old plaza rituals echo faintly in memory. Public confession by melody, ritual atonement hunts. Here, confession is coerced by threat of lash or prison. The noble speaks through an interpreter, recalling Aztec procedures that blended mercy and spectacle. His words fall on austere ears. The Spanish bench delivers sentences without fanfare. Land forfeiture, tribute increases, a mandated conversion. In this stark courtroom, the moral intricacies of Aztec justice are overwritten by colonial decree. The noble's dignity remains intact. He bows head to receive benediction from a friar. But the rhythm of justice shifts from communal restoration to unilateral authority. As the gavel-like rap of a wooden mallet rings, two legal traditions collide, reshaping the city's soul. Decades later, the plaza hosts a hybrid spectacle, the annual Fiesta de Purificación, blending Catholic ritual with Aztec atonement. A carved cross stands beside a quetzal feather fan on the old dais. Priests in cassocks read from Latin missals, while Nahua elders perform ritual cleansings with copal incense and maize water. A penitent, descended from the painter offenders, steps forward, wearing a tunic embroidered with both Christian symbols and maize glyphs. He kneels, recites a confession in Nahuatl and Spanish, then receives absolution, first through the sign of the cross, then by the brush of a quetzal feather across his forehead. The congregation, Spanish settlers, mestizo families and Nahua townsfolk, responds with hymns accompanied by drums, and flutes. In this living fusion, Aztec justice's theatrical atonement survives under a new faith. The fan's breeze and the cross's shadow mingle, reflecting a society striving to reconcile two worlds. The plaza's stones absorb the layered prayers, ancient and colonial, testifying to justice's evolving legacy. In present-day Mexico City, tour groups gather around the ruins of the Templo Mayor, a guide narrating Aztec justice's peculiar punishments. Visitors snap photos beside interpretive plaques, showing feather fan ceremonies and melody trials. A performance troupe reenacts the penance hunt in a nearby park, actors in jaguar skin cloaks and flint-tipped spears. A local school teacher leads students in a Justice Through Art workshop where they repaint fragments of mural replicas using traditional pigments, cochineal, indigo, lime, under museum supervision. Children dip eagle feather brushes into palette dishes, tracing maze glyphs and serpent coils. Nearby, a street mural depicts an eagle knight and quetzal feather fan, signed by a famed local artist. Here, the spirit of Aztec justice lives on, transformed into education, art, and tourism. Feathered rituals and musical trials are now cultural heritage, celebrated in festivals and curriculum. The ancient plaza's stones may lie buried, but its legacy resonates in modern Mexico's heartbeat, a testament that past punishments can evolve into present-day creativity and reflection. Inside the Museo del Templo Mayor's quiet gallery, a display case holds original feather fan tips, obsidian drums, and codex fragments. A young couple pauses before an interactive exhibit, a digital reconstruction of the melody trial. They tap rhythms on a touchscreen drum pad. Correct sequences illuminate a virtual merchant's confession in Nahuatl and Spanish. Across the room, an elderly Nahua elder, visiting on pilgrimage, kneels before a glass-encased quetzal feather fan, tracing its contours with reverent fingers. A curator explains how each feather once marked absolution in the Aztec courts. Nearby, schoolchildren in uniform marvel at an obsidian lance, their teacher translating glyph descriptions into Spanish. In these hushed halls, Aztec justice's rituals have become artifacts, objects of study and wonder. Yet the interactive displays, workshops, and pilgrimages ensure that justice remains a living dialogue. As the couple departs, they carry the rhythm of ancient drumbeats in their steps, a final echo of a system that once balanced punishment with mercy, and centuries later still speaks to the human quest for fairness.